like when
Damn, why you play
as
yourself?
accurate as it might have been, I almost passed out.
All you self-promoters is janky. We established like the Yankees.
Middle of the pack center, but for Klay Thompson, that's a different
And you
story.
know me as a Chris bottle sender, check spitting up. I thought Chris Paul just got waived.
LeBron's offering here. The Lakers need to make a series of moves, and they need to hit them all on time and on target. I just think that's got to be recognized. We're talking about the Lakers here, Klay Thompson. We should be talking about the Mavericks. We should be talking
even
about
got the OGs trying to press me. Ha. That way out because I'm already in it.
Himself, Bobby Marks, our front office insider, to map all of these things out. So, Bobby, what can the Lakers actually do here in free agency?
Well, the magic number for
That's the problem.
All of these things out. So, Bobby, what?
So that threw the shoulders back, and he had the bop.
It was $178 million.
Klay Thompson bopped in the field. I think we'll see that again.
50.
And I always said my mother gave the greatest advice. Yeah, look at me now. They look at me like the golden child. Can't nobody slow me down.
This is not,
especially not right now. Certain shit is too wild to
Thompson's
reconcile. Take that, no love in their heart, so they fake that. Be happy about the way they damn nigga, what is that?
So when Brian was talking about trades, you're certainly looking at D'Angelo Russell.
Like I'm supposed to tell you where she been at. Plus careers, I got a kid now. She ain't sorry and I ain't sorry. It's too late for sorry. Hope.
You try to offset that Russell money here. Certainly signing trades with Golden State would help also with Klay. But the Lakers have work to do here, and if they want LeBron James to take a $25 million pay cut, they're going to have to offset some salary.
Okay, Bobby, thank you so very much.
The bigger artists always got to play it smarter.
Have a unique perspective.
Y'all here on the cook-up.
Ramona Shelburne and Dave McMenamin, who both cover the Los Angeles Lakers for us. Ramona, starting with you, what is the Lakers' strategy here?
Well, they be like, hey, why you really stop smoking my life?
Born to be a Laker. Literally, his father, Michael Thompson, was playing for the Lakers and is on the Laker broadcast team. But I think with the Lakers, and Brian was mentioning this earlier, they're behind because Dallas has already done. Now you want to try to get something back for Klay Thompson, and this incentivizes Klay to do a sign and trade because he can get more than that mid-level exception. Dallas has a $16 million trade exception already because of the trade that they did for Tim Hardaway. That's more than 13. That's easy math, right? Perk, you can do that? 16 more than 13?
Wow.
Okay. I got you. Okay. But right now, Dallas is ahead. And so if you're the Lakers, you have to try to do some work here. It can be, you have to do something to get something back for Golden State, or to get more money for Klay. So it's not just about, and you know, you mentioned a haircut, $50 million to 25. That's not a haircut. That's just going bold. That's taking everything off.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with
$25 million. We lost it over that.
Real quick, we're going to get back to the Lakers in just a second, but we have some breaking news. Our Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that the Warriors are waiving Chris Paul, who had a $30 million guarantee date here, welcoming back in our senior NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, Woj, what does this mean for the Warriors and their strategy moving forward here?
Well, this was certainly expected. The Warriors were not bringing back Chris Paul on a $30 million deal at this point in his career, but they had moved the date back from Friday till today to see if they could find a way to maybe use that contract in a trade. And I think if somebody else had taken it on, they would have done the same thing and gotten the money off. Now, for Chris Paul, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. And at a much lower number, there'll be a lot of interest in Chris Paul. He is still can be an impactful player, even at his age, but it wasn't going to be $30 million. And now for the Warriors, listen, they were always projecting themselves in free agency without that salary on their cap.
Oh my God!
So the Warriors are preparing to work with other teams on possible Klay Thompson sign-in trades, whether it's the Lakers, the Dallas Mavericks. You know, those are all conversations that the Warriors now may start having.
Okay, Woj, thank you very much. We'll be back with you in just a minute. Zach, now that the Warriors, as Woj reported, have waived Chris Paul, where do they go next?
Well, they turned the $30 million salary slot into nothing, and there's a roadmap now financially. Bobby can correct us if I'm wrong. He's got numbers in front of him, to a reunion with Klay Thompson, because the financial penalties for doing that would not be as onerous as they would have been if you have Chris Paul at $30 million, or you manage to trade that contract for a salary slot coming in, which they tried to do, couldn't do. So that was my first thought. Is we've been sitting here pondering the end of the Splash Brothers, the end of a dynasty, the end of this historic partnership, the end of a Bay Area legend. Maybe there is a path, or maybe it's just the bridge is too far burned, and we will see a sign and trade. But they've got now more space to fill on a team that is still trying to win around Steph.
Doors are closing for the Warriors. They were trying to trade for Paul George before he opted out of his contract yesterday. Once he opted out, that became very unlikely. They were trying to trade Chris Paul over the last few days to get a piece that they could add to their roster. That door is now closed, and the relationship with Klay Thompson is in very bad shape. I would not say it's over until Klay signs elsewhere and is officially announced, but I would say very unlikely that he is retained, and even finding a sign and trade for him will be a challenge. It's certainly not a guarantee, so that door could end up closing as well.
Well, and I think Klay struggles this year. This contract weighed heavily. I think he looked at, yes, they gave me in my contract, but I also helped give them 4 championships.
Like Drake, when you freestyle smoking a lot, girls, why I try? I'm a thug, I'm a jive. Got the bird fold to the lenses. It's a Monday.
Well, now that Chris Paul's off, so now Klay's looking at him like, okay, so you guys have more money now. You have more money now that you can give one of your guys, so he can put, he can retire here, he can do all things. You will give me my money. So my thing is this: if Chris Paul's off and they do have some more wiggle room to work with for Klay, and they say no, then it's over. It's over. If they say no, even with more space, then it's over, because that's what the conversation's going to be had right now. It's like,
are you guys about more than money? There's more than money.
Oh, there's feelings hurt. There's feelings involved.
And y'all just want to keep hope alive. Why? I've been telling y'all since February, this relationship is over with, and it's okay.
He has been saying that, like, been saying that.
It got to this point because I don't feel like Klay is ever going to wear a Warriors jersey again. Right? I hate that it got to this point, because it could have just went from, separation to now it's an ugly divorce. Like, when you talk about
finally, bro. Holy
social
shit.
media, when you talk about, like, the tension now, like, Klay is literally wanting to go somewhere else in the same conference to prove that he still got it, and he feels disrespected. Just think about it. Whether we think he deserves it or not, Klay Thompson has watched Andrew Wiggins get $100+ million. He watched Jordan Poole get $100+ million. He watched Draymond Green get $100+ million. I mean, it's no putting no bandage over this wound.
Okay, so now that we're talking about potential sign-in trades, as Woj also mentioned, which is a door that is still cracked here for Klay Thompson, I want to bring Bobby Marks back into the conversation. So, Bobby, what are the Warriors looking at here? Make the numbers work for us.
Yeah, I mean, Malika, they're over the salary cap. Salary touchscreen right now. They can go out and sign a player to the $12.8 million non-tax mid-level exception. So you're looking at players like Gary Trent or DeAnthony Melton. What you probably want to do, if Klay Thompson's not coming back, you want to do a sign and trade. You want to sign and trade him, maybe a team like Dallas, certainly, and create a big trade exception. That would allow you to acquire a player with the exception and also use that $12.8 million.
My God.
The one thing you see here that we haven't seen in about 7 years, luxury tax, none. And I'm not projecting the Warriors to be in the tax based off waiving Chris Paul.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. Before we go to break, I want to bring in our reporter covering the Lakers, Dave McMenamin, because another team that Woj mentioned that is still in the conversation here for Klay Thompson, if they decide on a sign-and trade here. We're working on getting a camera over there. I'm hearing we're kind of moving cameras all around the studio, so we'll do that right when we get back from break. Coming up on NBA Today. Free agency, it feels like we need big perks.
James returned to
kick things off. How about some top 5
Clippers?
big predictions for the next NBA season?
I think I'm gonna be on point with this.
Here we go.
I did my. I went to my.
The NBA Today free agency special is presented by ESPN Bet, the official sportsbook of ESPN.
If James returned, you know they gotta have at least one of them return. I mean Kawhi, yeah.
Today's world, when you see the unfollowing on social media, it means something. It's I mean, obviously it's different for an older guy like me, but at the same time, that is kind of starting the fresh start path for a player. All right, it's I know the end is near. Everybody sees it, but when I can start to remove that, I start to now demagnetize myself from there to be willing and open to other things. But you kind of have to get off of that first.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Got some live news for you to react to. We got some news here. Pershawn Sharani of The Athletic, Golden State is waiving Chris Paul. Paul had a $30 million guarantee date today. He now becomes a free agent. So, off the cuff, where would you like to see Chris Paul?
Phoenix.
Whoa. Okay. Chris Paul. I mean, obviously he's a free agent. So obviously a Lakers who looking for a veteran point guard facilitator. I think somebody like LeBron will respect and feel comfortable putting the ball in his hands. I don't know how you use him. I mean, it's going to be a team like that's in need of a point guard. I don't like him in Philly. I'm not taking the ball out of Maxi's hands. It's his show. It's his keys at that position.
Phoenix.
We can easily say the Magic. But I think for some, I mean, and they're right there in the East. I'm not saying they're going to outlast or better than a Knicks or Boston or even Milwaukee.
Phoenix.
It's a possibility. That's a possibility. But I think it's going to have to be established for Chris Paul of his role. Understand? I don't know if he's a starter everywhere. He's possibly a starter in LA to get things going. You can still bring him off the bench, but if he's willing, I think at this point, if he wants to win, he's willing to go to a team that is right there, because Chris Paul on the floor, whenever that is helping your team.
Gotcha. You mentioned the Lakers already. How do you feel about the other LA team? Would you like a return there?
Oh, James Harden just resigned.
It's possible. We know Chris Paul being strong-headed. Okay. And it just depends on who's there, because that has to fit also. Chris Paul, James Harden, Chris Paul, Russ Westbrook. I don't know. Chris Paul, Kawhi, I think Kawhi gets in along with anybody, can get along with anyone. I just think, I don't know. That's a tough one there for me. I mean, a lot of people who's watching this show may feel, oh no, that's a no-brainer. You guys may feel that. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Well, I guess sticking with the stubborn theme, what about Phoenix?
Return to Phoenix? That's putting pride aside there.
Yeah.
that wound is still fresh. I feel like it's still a little fresh right there. But that is a great piece. I think he fits there. That's that point guard. That's another team. That's a great call. That what he brings to the table makes the games easier, because I want to see Devin Booker be a scorer. Yes, I love the fact that his willingness to play the point guard to get guys, but I need Devin Booker getting buckets. Now, when teams are double teaming and putting them in their position, now that point guard mentality.
The NBA Today Free Agency Special is presented by ESPN Bet, the official sportsbook of ESPN.
For like 3 months and 6 days.
We are less than 6 minutes away from the opening of free agency. There is so much that we do not know, but one thing that we do know, is we are joined by our reporter covering the Lakers, Dave McMenamin, is that LeBron James, as you reported, Dave, is willing to take a pay cut for the right building, the right roster around him. So what is exactly LeBron's strategy here?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a quote that Rich Paul told me yesterday on Saturday after official. He told me on LeBron, he is prioritizing a roster improvement. He's been adamant about exuding all efforts to improve the roster. So we start the
Nikola Jokic is so awful in pick and roll.
The mid-level exception that could open up if LeBron was to take a pay cut. But if that grand gesture can go unfulfilled, if the Lakers can't find a player of the ilk of a James Harden or a Klay Thompson or a legitimate center to play alongside Anthony Davis,
I'm gonna just do that.
I would think that there will be some pressure on the Lakers front office then to find some sort of deal, because you can't get this gesture for one of the all-time greats looking to take a pay cut for the first time in more than a decade and then not do anything with that magnanimous gesture. So we'll have to see. If it's not in the mid-level exception, we could be seeing something on the trade block.
Dave, thank you so very much. Might maybe LeBron James getting another new teammate be on Big Perk's big list of big predictions here?
What you moaning for? Look, it's free agency, okay? I ended free agency one time, and that was the end of my basketball career. But we're talking about today's game. Don't you laugh?
I ain't saying nothing.
It's Big Perk's big list of big predictions.
Yep.
This is not Zach list. Not Ramona list. This is not Dave list. Malika and Wendy, y'all keep a cool booty. Richard, you stay away from this. Coming in at number 5. Bam! Put it up there. You like that?
Bruce Brown to the Bucks.
Bruce Brown to the Bucks. What do the Bucks need? They need a wing. They need a guy that's going to come in, be a 3-and-D guy. He's shown that on the biggest stage of winning the NBA championship with the Denver Nuggets. Didn't Toronto pick up his options?
Yes.
$23 million?
Yeah.
Am I right? Okay, so they could trade it. Okay, Malika, give me some
I don't know
minutes.
how the fuck he stayed there. I guess he hit the ball.
Trae Young to the Spurs.
Trae Young to the Spurs. I've been saying that since March.
Trae Young to the Spurs make a lot of sense. Look, Victor, shut up.
Not for the Spurs. What do you mean, not for the Spurs? Trae Young is 25 years old.
You get an all-star caliber player like Trae Young, a guy that can play on the ball, we know, a guy that can play off the ball, helps Victor Wembanyama offense.
He's going to average 15 assists.
You've been talking about coming on television. Let's get it. Bam! There we go. DeMar DeRozan to the Clippers. Why? Because they're probably about to lose Paul George. Born and raised in L.A., want to come home. He's still a walking bucket. A guy can still give you 22 to 25 points per game per night.
DeMar to the Clippers.
I'm on that. Ramona, Dave, all the way from over there, I need to collect. You ready?
Yep.
Well, come on. Bam! There we go. Klay Thompson to the Mavs. Come here, Wendy. My source. My source.
Bro.
My source, Wendy. Hey, look. They need shooting, right? When you talk about Luka, you're talking about Kyrie Irving, guys who are isolation players, can create for themselves and others. You pick up Klay Thompson, catch and shoot guy. I actually love it. Here, Richard, I wasn't going to leave you out. Come on here, boy. Give me some energy now. You in this velvet. Give me some energy.
Bam.
That's it?
Bam. Paul George.
Paul George to the 76ers. The missing piece. Bam. Reese Max and Joel Embiid. If you down more, damn it, you got to go for it. You got to pitch your best shot. You know why? Because we don't know how many years Joel Embiid have left to play at this level. Again, this is not anybody else's list, although group participation. This is Big Perk's.
This is Big Perk's list of big predictions that we're going to see in about 90 seconds how many of them come true when free agency opens. Some news, though, before we head over to ESPN2. As our own Young Masook is reporting, James Harden has agreed to a 2-year, $70 million deal to keep him in Los Angeles. Your reaction real quick, Brian.
That is right about where we thought it would come in. The key is they decided not to prioritize Paul George. They decided to prioritize James Harden.
So what does that tell you, Zach?
I'm confused about what the Clippers are doing.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest with you, I get the financial constraints, but I don't understand what's going on.
So if you're Paul George and you're seeing this perk, what are you thinking now?
Well, one, I don't have enough time to talk about this, so I'm going to pitch it to Richard, but I hope we come back to this.
We absolutely will at the top of the hour.
Yeah. What I think, if I was Paul George, look, I have my number. Set your price and live your life. That's my advice.
And it certainly seems like that's a little flaw right there. That seems to be what Paul George is doing. He has set his price, and he is willing to make the Clippers uncomfortable.
Looks like I'm going over to ESPN2.
We are 10 seconds away from the beginning of free agency 2024. Head on over.
Welcome to the NBA Today Free Agency Special, presented by ESPN.
Damn, Klay's really gone, bro. That's crazy. Klay Thompson not on the Warriors?
An entire franchise.
I'm going to take my time.
Stage for Kevin Durant.
Unbelievable.
Where you can expect.
Oh my God, the tweets for this are pouring in right now.
Forever. It's going to be a different summer in the NBA, I think.
in the next 2 or 3 days, we're going to see a bunch of people come to contract terms.
I think you go all in on anything you can.
The first domino has fallen. The plot is thickening.
Free agency on NBA Today.
Clay to the win.
Starts
I gotta guard this dude, bro.
Free agency has officially begun. Negotiations are underway, and we are on our way to finding out more about what the future holds for LeBron James, Paul George, Klay Thompson, and more. Is your phone buzzing off the hook already? Because mine sure is, with Adrian Wojnarowski's reporting already. Hey, welcome to the NBA Today Free Agency Special. He's Zach Lowe. He's Brian Windhorst. In the crushed velvet jacket there, that's Richard Jefferson.
Welcome.
You can't miss him. Kendrick Perkins. I'm Malika Andrews. Woj, Bobby Marks, Ramona Shelburne, Dave McMiniman. They are all standing by, but we start our show with some breaking news because James Harden is planning to return to the Clippers on a 2-year, $70 million deal. That is what a league source confirmed to our own Young Masuk. LA will be, of course, opening a new arena, and now they will know that they have Kawhi Leonard and at least James Harden in the Intuit Dome. So I want to bring in our Ramona Shelburne because, Ramona, notice a name that I didn't mention, Paul George. Yeah. What does this decision tell us about Paul George's future in Los Angeles?
Well, it's really interesting. Kawhi Leonard took 3 years, $150 million. James Harden just took 2 years, $70 million. But the second year of that contract is a player option. So we're back to this one-on-one with James Harden. It's almost like he hits free agency every single season. But this year it's a player option. And for Paul George,
damn,
he knows that there are other teams that will offer him 4 years. There are other teams that will give him the full max. Kawhi Leonard, James Harden have taken less than the full max to stay in Los Angeles. But if you know your market has 4 years elsewhere, 4 years and a full max elsewhere, and this is probably your last big contract. If you're Paul George, it is a very tough decision. A couple years ago, I did a cover story on Paul George and talked about why he wanted to play in Los Angeles. He wants to be at home around his parents. His mom had a stroke when he was younger. It's harder for her to travel to games. Being in Los Angeles was a homecoming for her and for him. And this is a tugging at his heartstrings to make this choice. And yet, 4 years versus 3 years, 4 years at a full max versus less than the full max. That's a tough decision for a player in his mid-30s.
Yeah, it really is. Ramona, thank you so very much. I want to bring it back to set here because we've talked about this really as being the summer of Paul George. Why, Brian, does PG control free agency in the way that
most space that's a contender to spend is the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yep.
They are prioritizing Paul George. They're going to meet with him, I am told, today, and they're going to see whether they can give a max contract to Paul George. Also getting a meeting, according to Woj, the Orlando Magic, the team that has one of the second or third most amounts of cap space. So both of those teams aren't spending their money until they know for sure where Paul George is going. There's a whole secondary list of free agents that are lined up behind Paul George that will potentially go to Philadelphia or Orlando when they give an answer. Then you have the Clippers. The Clippers are waiting to see if Paul George, they're not out of this yet. They still have a standing offer to Paul George. I don't think he's taking it because I think he would have taken it already. But if he doesn't return to the Clippers then can enter the market. You have other pieces like Klay Thompson who may consider the Clippers, and then you're going to have a cascading effect that goes down. So while we are going to see some deals get done here, I think you will really see a bunch of the bigger names stuck behind Paul George. When he makes his mind up, we're going to see a bunch of deals happen right after each other.
Do we have any idea on the timeline that we're working with for Paul George?
He wants to go through these meetings, so I would guess it's going to be some period of time, maybe overnight into tomorrow, but he also is meeting with Philly today. We know that. If he likes what he hears, he could commit to Philly today, and then we could see some action faster.
Can we go back to the Clippers for a second? Like, seriously, what are they doing? Ever since Steve Ballmer took over for us buying this team, all he's been doing is paying salaries, paying doctor bills, and paying construction workers. That's it. This team has underachieved damn near every single season. They're never reliable when it comes down to when it matters the most. We don't know which direction they're going in, but it don't seem like the right direction, to be honest with you, because this roster that they have right now that's still led by Kawhi Leonard that you can't depend on, now all of a sudden you go out and you sign James Harden to a 2-year deal who you also can't depend on, and they don't have a damn thing to do with injuries. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, we talk so much about the Lakers and criticize the Lakers. The Lakers has had way more success over these last 5 or 6 years than the Clippers have. I just don't know what they're doing right now, and it's really a damn shame.
There's definitely a strategy, but I'm going to tell you, I don't know what it is, because they know that Philly can offer this max contract. They know that Orlando can offer this max contract. This deadline didn't sneak up on them. They knew this for months, and they elected not to change the offer to Paul George, knowing that he could get more money elsewhere, and that is where they're at right now.
But Wendy, like, didn't they give up SGA and $1 million draft picks for Paul George?
Yes.
Like, one would think that they would do everything in their power to keep him there and keep him happy,
you
right?
have to understand, at the end of this contract, he's going to be 38 years old, making $50 million. That's a player with a career with a history of injuries. Now, that's what they're looking at, and they're like, we would really be in bad space if we had that situation. So they're offering him a short deal. Kawhi signed the deal because he's like, hey, look, I'm gonna put my name on that paper because I understand the injury. Paul George is like, I get what y'all are doing, but the rest of the league is telling me that I'm worth a max contract. And at the end of the day, that's it. I respect his entire family. You can buy your mom a house anywhere you want. You can buy her a couple vacation homes with that money. So I'm just saying he should prioritize himself and his career, because the Clippers are telling you how they value you.
If this is the end of the PG Kawhi era, it is an unmitigated failure. They've won 3 playoff series in 5 years, and none since 2021. Ooh. Here's what's confusing to me about the Clippers. They're haggling with Paul George over the 4th year. They gave 3 to Kawhi, 2 to Harden. And the reason it's been kind of peppered about the media is, well, we're concerned about the second apron. We want to get under the second apron. I'm not sure what the 4th year of Paul George's deal has to do with the second apron and getting under it, because you already paid Kawhi 3. Now you've paid Harden 2. If you bring Paul George back on a 3-year deal, which we all presume is the offer, you're going over the second apron for at least 1, probably 2, maybe all 3 of those years. And then Kawhi comes off, Harden's already up. What does the 4th year have to do with the second apron? I don't really know the answer to that, other than they close so fast, they want to have the ability to reset faster if this goes badly. Just a little to your point about Wendy saying there's a strategy, you're not quite sure what it is. I agree. I'm a little confused.
Really quickly, though, to the panel. Do you think that 3-year deal that Kawhi signed put the Clippers in a tough spot? Because now they're like, we can't give him a 4-year deal because Kawhi signed a 3-year, and Kawhi would be furious if we did. You know what I'm saying?
And why would Paul George care? Kawhi's out of the playoffs every year.
Agreed, but I'm saying they're like, we're not going to give you, we're going to stick by our guns. We're not going to give you a 4-year deal, Kawhi. You're only getting 3.
I'm pretty sure Kawhi, when he signed that deal, he was not thinking about Paul George. He was thinking about Kawhi Leonard and those knees.
He got asked about that the day he signed the deal. And he said the day he signed the deal, it's my understanding that I'm going to sign, Paul's going to sign, and Jay Harden is.
But I heard this before back in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Oh my goodness!
James Harden all had a similar. I was in that press conference.
Here was the problem: when they signed Kawhi to that deal, whatever it was, last December or January, they never told Paul George about it. Paul George found out about it when the rest of the world found out about it.
Yeah.
So I think what you have to do here. Forget what the Clippers say. Judge them on their actions. Their actions over the season and their actions here in free agency indicate they're ready to move on from Paul George. He's been told basically very clearly, and so now he's ready to move on from them.
And the Clippers know that Paul George have somewhat of an issue with playing with James Harden. And
she want to get married tonight, but I can't take a knee because I'm wearing all white.
Before you get a deal done with him. So like Paul George addressing and saying on his show that he just want to play the right way. He never said that before. He's saying that now since James Harden got on this team.
Well, since we're talking about the money that James Harden has agreed to, $70 million over 2 years, I want to bring Bobby Marks back into the conversation. Bobby, what does this open up here for the Clippers?
Well, Malik, I think it's all dependent on what happens with Paul George right now. And certainly when we slide that Harden number in, they are over the salary cap. The salary cap's $141 million right now. So basically, it's dependent here. I mean, if Paul George returns, they're going into the second apron. That's $201 million. The Clippers are prepared to go into the second apron. They're prepared to pay the luxury tax. It's all about years 3 and 4, certainly. But if we take Paul George back out, now you're looking at the $12.8 million non-tax mid-level, the biannual $4.7. I would say if Paul George decides if Philadelphia is the team, sign and trade is off the table. Especially if you're
operates. At this point, the timing may not be right or the fit may not be right. I'd love to have Chris back. But I also understand that when you're building an entire team, you have to look at every single piece on the roster. You have to look at all the dynamics. You have to look at, on the court, in the locker room, off the court, all that stuff. And I just feel like Chris is at a part of his career where
they never miss that shot.
It just doesn't feel as good as some people might think. And so for that, I don't think Chris is the guy that we should expect to be a Phoenix Sun.
Yeah, I tend to agree. There's names that I find more intriguing at this point, too. Monte Morris, who we've heard mixed interest when it comes to him potentially being there, but a young guy that could bounce back. We've seen him have success on a championship team when he was playing with the Nuggets. There's a handful of point guards in that range that I think makes sense. Another one, DeLon Wright, that I'd like them to consider. We'll see. Dunn, I just don't see him leaving Utah. Do you? I mean, in reality, I don't see him leaving. I'd love him here in Phoenix. I just don't think that would be the case here. Do you?
Yeah, so, I mean, again, Dunn is going to command more than the vet minimum. He can get that. I mean, Utah can give him more. Other teams can give him more. But, again, those other teams can't give him a chance to compete. Those other teams can't give him a chance to be a rotational piece, a very important piece to a team that can contend for a championship. So, Chris Dunn's situation is very much like Bobo. Do you want to make money?
I'm there, bro.
Or do you want to try to change the trajectory of your career a little bit? Do you want to come and be a part of a winning program, potentially be the missing piece, and really take your career or give yourself a chance to make a lot more money down the road? I think that's the dilemma with Dunn. Everything being equal, if the Suns can
give me that burger, salt and toss and Papa John. Better get you some
offer equal money, I think Dunn to Phoenix would be I prefer Dunn and campaign over Monte Morris, but I like Monte Morris. I think he can be a nice addition. And then it's a guy like Aaron Holiday, who's another guy that again, can't. I don't sleep on holidays, brother. I just don't. Those guys know how to play basketball, and Coach Bud has some good experience with the former Holiday. So I wouldn't be opposed.
Shot takes so long, bro.
I want to clear up something. I said Monte Morris was part of that championship team. He was not. He was on the Nuggets prior to the championship, I believe. So Kevin Love, guy that has been perpetually always kind of rumored to be an interest of the Phoenix Suns. He has officially signed a 2-year deal to go back to Miami for $8 million. So you can wipe that name off the grease board if you had him there. He is not somebody that the Suns will be acquiring this offseason. This is going a lot slower than last year. You remember the first 5 minutes of last year, I think the Suns signed 4 or 5 guys right off the bat. In terms of veteran minimums, I kind of wonder, have they learned a lesson?
Oh my
Do you think they're taking a little bit more time? Because last year we got 4 or 5 guys that wound up not being on the roster come the trade deadline just because they weren't working out.
Yeah, again, I like this. I like this approach a lot more. I feel like this team is comfortable with what they're doing. I feel like Coach Bud has already made an impact behind the scenes with how they're going to go about this. I like that they're going to let the market kind of set itself, because sometimes you can shoot yourself in the foot if you go too quick, right? You just mentioned it earlier.
I'm so dumb.
As it stands right now, it looks like there's 3 spots. And so you rush into those things too quick, there's always a guy that slips through the cracks that you're like, whoa, I didn't expect that was going to go left or that was going to happen, and now this guy's available. So I think they're taking their time. They're going to kind of let the market set itself, see what happens. They have their targets. But, again, the funny thing is, I suppose, a lot of the guys that they're targeting, we did a good job of covering over the last couple weeks. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's a Dennis Smith Jr., whether it's an Aaron Holiday, whether it's a Gary Harris, whether it's a Chris Dunn campaign. Like, we've done a good job of kind of staying on top of these guys. And now you got to kind of let them make the decision and see if you luck into something. But I feel good about the fact that I think the Suns are going to walk away with potentially two more point guards or 2 guys that can play point guard. and potentially a big. I mean, that's what they're trying to do, my brother. And so you just cross your fingers and hope things fall the right way.
Do you agree with the approach that we had brought up about not trying to make any major moves, running it back, and trying to keep a majority of this roster together? Because I've heard a lot of people, on our favorite platform, Twitter, complain yesterday that why are you bringing back Bull? Why are you bringing back, Royce O'Neal, which we've gone over why there. Why are you considering bringing back Josh Okogie and Damian Lee? You're just running it back the way it is. Why? And people freak out about that. Do you agree with that?
Agree with them freaking out? Hell no.
No. Agree with the Suns' approach to trying to run it back and believing in continuity.
Yes, I do believe in continuity. And if you were a fan of the Suns team that went to the finals, that was our staple. Continuity, right? These guys were together for a little bit. They learned how to play together. Continuity's big, man. And that's why I keep saying I like what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling from, behind the scenes in regards to Coach Bud's impact on what we're doing right now. I'm going to say this again. You're going to hear me say this a lot. And this was told to me yesterday, so I'll repeat it. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to – we want some continuity.
Happened. I'm told the way that last summer – mouth. The thing that has been repeated to me over and over and over again by so many different people is Clay wants to feel respected. He wants to feel appreciated. He wants to feel valued. And how last summer went down, he didn't feel that way. So he enters the year already a little bit unhappy. He starts the year off playing poorly. He eventually gets moved to the bench. His role for the rest of the season is bopping all around. Meanwhile, the contract negotiations, nothing moved from the summer. All the while, Malika, he had a hard time adjusting to his game and his body after those two really difficult injuries a couple years ago. So he's dealing with all of this in his head. Meanwhile, he isn't getting that respect, again, that appreciation, that reassurance from people high up in the organization, and that really, really caused a splinter between him and important people in the Warriors. And now, look, could the Warriors have maybe eventually put an offer down in front of Clay? Yes, but I was told earlier this month that by the time they do it, and the Warriors, by the way, have a history of taking some time before coming up with
I seen him late as fuck.
Like with Steve Kerr, like with Draymond Green. It could take some time, but the question was, by the time the Warriors offered Clay something, would it have been too late? Would he have already detached himself mentally from coming back from the Warriors? And that's pretty much what we've seen play out here these last few weeks.
Kendra, thank you so very much. That really gave us picture of how things have devolved here between Golden State and Klay Thompson, as Kendra mentioned, really dating back to a year ago. So, Ramona, we're hearing about Dallas now. We're hearing about the Lakers, the Clippers, several other teams. What does this look like now for Klay Thompson as he pursues these avenues?
Well, I think he's obviously going to take a lot less money. I mean, he made $43 million last year. Now we're talking about something, and mid-level exception is 13. That's $30 million. Yep. That's a lot less money. Now, if they can work out a sign-and trade, each of these teams can come up with different amounts of money. The Sixers obviously have the most amount of cap space available, but Paul George is their primary target, and so that's right. But Dallas has more right now. Dallas has a $16 million trade exception that they created in the Tim Hardaway deal. We can get them up near 20. The Lakers can create more by doing the several trades we discussed earlier. And so it's a question
he missed it. He missed the steal.
If you're already going to be taking a lot less, do you want to pick the destination you want to go to, or do you want just a little bit more money? How much money is he going to leave on the table to go to where he wants to go? And I think it's a fascinating situation. Klay Thompson on the Lakers? Klay Thompson on the Mavs?
I mean, it's wild.
And he would look real nice next to Luka Doncic.
Klay Thompson anywhere but the Warriors is wild.
Klay Thompson happy, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm not counting his pockets, but Klay looked like a.
Oh, he was miserable. Except on the 1st and 15th of every month.
That's what I'm saying, but we all know that as a player, you know this, Richard, if your mind is not right, you're not going to perform at your best. And we're seeing that. The fact that he's taking, so I've got a question for the panel. He's taking a meeting with the 76ers. So, am I getting this right? So the 76ers could possibly get PG and Klay Thompson?
Yeah.
That is financially feasible. They have enough cap space to do it. Let's pause for a second. Let's pause for a second. We go real fast on these shows. There's a lot of transactions coming in.
Yep.
This is the end of something magical in basketball. Like, this was a dynastic team, and this guy, from the threes in Oklahoma City to the threes against Toronto to coming out with a busted ACL to shoot the free throws to the loudest ovation I heard in that arena ever. This is the end of something. We need to take a moment to appreciate it. We also need to take a moment to ask, wait a second, hold on here. Same with the Clippers if Paul George leaves.
Yeah.
What's plan B here for this team that has one of the 10 to 12 greatest players of all time still playing at an all-NBA level? They just waived Chris Paul. That salary slot's gone. They might lose an all-time great Warrior, all-time great player for nothing. That player would be gone. They don't have a ton of financial flexibility. It's not like they opened up $40 million in cap space. This team wants to win right now at a decently high level. What direction are they going to go in? We saw them sniff around Paul George. I expect them to be creative and aggressive, but doors are closing, as Whitney said, and they might be grasping at straws in the next 72 hours.
We're talking about a trio that won 518 games together, regular season of playoffs. That's the sixth most by a trio all time. A trio that won 4 championships together. And when you were talking about breaking that up, someone who is going to have a statue outside of Chase Center at some point, you have to do that on the sole mission of maximizing the end of Steph Curry's career. And so there has to be something that right now I am missing as these transactions are just now starting to percolate and pour in, that they believe is going to achieve that more than what they have in front of them.
It always started and will end with Steph Curry. Yeah. This dynasty is built on number 30's back. And I think that, you know, as much as it was the Splash Brothers, and I think that the Warriors did make a good faith effort to keep them together, you could feel this coming. I mean, Perk, I've heard you say this all year long, and this is one of those ones you turned out to be right. Okay, but you could feel it.
Why is Contour in the game, bro?
The last game of the year, he was going around, like, taking it in from the Chase Center. Yeah. He went around the locker room and was asking if anyone wanted to ride on his boat home after the game, and Chris Paul and Moses Moody went with him. I mean, you could feel him know that this is probably it.
Sacramento, when he's looking around.
He can just feel it. And everyone said we want him back. Everyone said how important he is to them. But this has been coming, and now it is finally here. And Zach's right. We should take a minute to talk about Klay.
I want these guys to, you have to stink. You have to stink pretty bad to get your hands on Cooper Flag, and so there's going to be a lot of teams. Let's talk about something, though, because I had this conversation yesterday, Espo, about the new CBA and everyone talking about the apron. But there are other things in this CBA that I think could help the Phoenix Suns that I don't feel is being talked enough about. And I want to talk about the NBA CBA, the floor. Okay, the 90% floor that needs to be reached by some of these teams to be in compliance with the new CBA. So the way it used to work was you had a 90% floor, and you had the entire season to hit that floor. Okay, you had until the last regular season game to hit that floor. As long as you got to that floor before the end of your last regular season game, you were in compliance. And the tax money that's divided between all the non-taxpayer teams, they take all the tax money from the teams that are paying tax, they put it in a big bucket, and then they divide that by all the teams that didn't pay the tax, a.k.a. the Robert Sarver check or the Robert Sarver fund. Right? Because he never paid the tax, and he would get a $10, $15 million check every year.
It looks like it's going to be about $11.96 million this year.
Okay. So you're talking about almost $12 million that are going to teams for not being at the tax, or for being under the tax. But back to the apron, okay, and back to the floor. The difference in this CBA is the NBA got a little smart. They said, all right, guys, we're not going to let you lollygag through the season, stay above, below that floor, and then get there when you want, and then get this check. Guess when the first day of the new floor is? Day one.
Beginning of the season.
Beginning of the season. First regular season game, you got to be compliant. You got to be at that 90% floor. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you're not at that floor, guess what happens? The difference between you and the floor, you got to pay to your players on your roster. You got to put it in a pot, divide it, and cut your guys a check. Number three, you get a cap hold on that difference. So it's not like you can. They're just gonna say, you know what? You're scotch-free. No, we're gonna triple down and we're gonna put a cap hold on your books for not getting to the 90% floor. Oh, but we're not done. You also disqualify yourself from getting that $12 million check that everybody gets for not being there. So you know what that tells me, Espo? It tells me a lot of teams are gonna have money, but they're not gonna be able to spend it because players in certain spots don't want to go to losing teams. And so they're going to have money that they have, but they can't spend, and they're going to have to find a way to get to the floor. And that's why the Phoenix Suns are playing chess. You get to the floor, you want somebody to get to the floor, you just call up our boys, we'll help you get to the floor.
Yeah, the problem with that, and I get that, and I think you will see a lot of trades that are caused because of that floor. But you're going to have a sweetener, right? Nobody's taking a contract that you don't necessarily want just so they can get that floor. They're going to want draft compensation. They're going to want something to that extent. So that's part of why you pick up those second-round picks like you did. That's part of why you don't make a move with that 2031 pick at the draft, because you might be able to get something that can help you. I mean, you're talking teams like Detroit. You're talking teams like Charlotte. You're talking teams like the Nets that are trying to get out of contracts but are going to need to stay at that floor. You're talking the bottom feeders of the league in a lot of ways. They're going to have to make those kind of moves, which make it interesting what you're going to be able to do. And, I know you were hesitant to say it, but to me, I'm circling names like Nasir Little. You're circling names like Nick, Nurk. You're circling that name. I mean, it's the usual suspects that you're looking at. But then, okay, if I'm looking at that, is that where I'm going to find that? And okay, if I'm looking at that, is that where I'm going to find that? And okay, hesitant to say it, but to me, I'm circling names like Nasir Little. You're circling names like Nick.
No. Listen, again, all those usual
I guess we never know what Harvard gets
are
us.
probably going to be in conversations.
They have it all to do.
All-time Warrior Klay Thompson may be rolling the credits. Still to come on our NBA Today free agency special. What's next for the Los Angeles Lakers? Now that LeBron James has said he's willing to take a pay cut.
Just to see the looks on all their faces, all it took was patience. Gotta come up off the hip for me.
I'm telling you.
Because teams are going to be desperate to get to that floor, so they might go the opposite way.
Yeah, give me that contract.
What
I'll throw you something.
I'm early?
Listen, this is a different NBA. These owners, a conversation I had yesterday.
No way. Never
There's
miss.
some shook owners. They're shook. Like they're sitting down, they're saying, okay, this ain't what it used to be.
Oh my God.
You better know that you're all in to win if you're gonna be cutting these checks. Or you better be like tanking and ready to blow it up to try to utilize the draft. But if you're in that middle ground and you know that you're 5-7 years away from even being competitive, what are you doing? What are you doing even trying to be in that conversation? I think you're going to see a lot of teams waving the white flag. And I'm going to tell you right now, let's just talk about what Atlanta just did. Like, let's not sugarcoat that. You're going to tell me that the market for DeJounte Murray is Larry Nance and 2 picks?
Insane.
That's what the market is? Or is that being dictated by what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they just want to get the fuck off. Yeah.
Is that these owners saying,
want to get off shit.
Listen, we don't want to get no smoke. We don't want to get nowhere near that. We're not good enough to win. We looked at that Boston team. We ain't nowhere close. Let's get out under this right now and not make this our problem anymore. Just because we're not close. And these owners are not going to be okay cutting these checks anymore with these stipulations and not winning.
What the fuck?
And so, again, that could be a benefit to the Suns because we got an owner that's like, yo, I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to get a championship here in Phoenix. And, a deal we made in the past, Kirk Thomas, you remember, you're a savant when it comes to this. What did we do?
2 first-round picks and Kirk Thomas for cash, wasn't it? It was nothing.
There we go. So that was absurd when I saw it back in the day. Okay? And we're like, there's no way we just gave up Kirk Thomas and added 2 picks for you to just take them because we're worried about some money situation. You might see some Kirk Thomas trades this summer. You might.
We could use a guy like Kirk Thomas. Too bad he's like 48 right now. So
yeah. I mean, again, this doesn't all apply to the Phoenix Suns, but I'm saying this is a new day in the NBA. Yeah. And man, just look, man. The Clippers are scared to give Paul George 4 years, dude.
Well, some of that's his injury history and not knowing what Kawhi's injuries are going to look like. So I think they're hedging their bet there, but I get what you're saying. By the way, hi, Lakers hater forever. I see you in the chat. Thanks for saying hi. By the way, I want you guys to tell us in the chat who you want and who you'd be targeting if you were James Jones right now. For the people asking where Gerald is, he is in his home state for his grandmother's 90th birthday, but he is messaging me along the way. Anything that he gets, he will pass along or...
¿Qué te ayudará a ahorrar? Con Spectrum TV, Stream Latino, pues.
Big enough, he'll jump on. So don't you worry. Gerald is part of this program just behind the scenes right now. So, Flex, I get a lot of these provisions, and I get a lot of things that are going on with this CBA. They're going to have to get creative to fill a couple of these holes, and I think we all know as much as we like Oso in the draft from Marquette, he still is a rookie. So you still need to figure out something like you talked about in free agency or via trade at that center position, and I feel like that's where a deal is going to have to happen, probably trade-wise, more than the point guard. I look at the veteran free agents out there on the market from a point guard situation. I think you can get 1 or 2 at a vet minimum that can come in and help you for a year, and you can address that long-term at a different stage. But to me, it feels like the big men is where you're going to have to get creative, because I look at that list. There's nobody that jumps off that list for me in terms of a vet minimum that could come in and solidify that. I think Oso is a very interesting piece to that equation and for a long time coming here, but I feel like you still need someone that's more of a short-term option there. And I feel like you're going to have to look at that on the trade market more than free agency. In your mind, is there somebody in free agency that stands out, or do you kind of agree with that?
No, I kind of agree with that. I mean, the free agent market is what it is, man. They're vet minimum options for a reason. So I can warm up to a plethora of dudes, and I think there's some guys that will fit, like a glove in this spot.
No, think back to the 21-22 season, that disastrous year where they brought in all those veterans, and it was off from the start. I remember walking out the arena with him late in the year when he was clear he was going to miss the playoffs, and he was like, man, I'm obsessed with winning. I just want another chance to get there. And so this is him putting his money where his mouth is in order to allow the Lakers to try to have some maneuverability to get better. Think about it. LeBron's going to sign a extension sometime between now and next week. That's the time.
I don't know why I shot that. I really don't. Honestly.
Court in Las Vegas.
That's a steal, by the way, 3K.
Training camp without a new deal. And he's probably going to sign maybe like a 1+1 contract extension, which means we could be in the phase of his career where there's only 1 year left. We could be entering into the last year of his career if it's a 1+1 type of contract. And so it's like his favorite emoji. There's only so much sand left in the hourglass. And this is him showing some urgency and showing some willingness to partner with the Lakers to try to make them as competitive as possible.
When you say potentially the final year of LeBron James's career, my antenna goes up. LeBron's a smart guy. He's signing potentially here at 1+1, waiting a week, Dave is saying, before we're going to see him put pen to paper. So what needs to happen in that week?
Well, just because LeBron says he would take a pay cut doesn't mean that he will take a pay cut. The Lakers have to earn it here by opening up the opportunity to sign a player they'll take a pay cut for. And what I mean by that is they right now don't have, a lot of space within their roster to add talent. For LeBron to make his salary come down and make it fit, they have to do another trade. It doesn't have to be with D'Angelo Russell. It could be with another player, but it most likely is D'Angelo Russell. Okay, so before the Lakers can seriously think about Klay Thompson or whoever else, they got to come up with an answer here for D'Angelo Russell. And it ideally would be a trade that they heavily reduce the salary, if not get off all of his salary. This is not a surprise to the Lakers. They knew that if Russell opted into his contract, which he did on Friday, they would have to make this kind of deal. So now they are trying to work something like that out, and then they can come to LeBron. This is why when it comes to the Klay Thompson sweepstakes, the Lakers are a little bit behind a team like the Mavericks. The Mavericks have already made a trade to reduce their payroll, with Tim Hardaway sending him into Dallas for getting him $16 million off their books. The Lakers are behind. They need to make a trade like that. Then LeBron can take less money.
Sis got praying hands, but I'm the religious man, but I'm just a sicker man.
Right?
We can argue, but who's the richer man?
I understand that. It's a lot of things that are hard. He still got to get it done, because what LeBron is doing is he's putting the pressure on Rob.
How you supposed to make it to the? How is that?
If he
Barry,
don't make a move
yo,
and make the space
my shot is just,
oh my God, bro. Thompson, then you can't go back and look at LeBron come a week later and say,
do that shit again.
It's on him, because he actually told you, look, I'm giving you an opportunity, and I'm telling you, I'm trying to win now. Like, this is showing me all indications that LeBron James is trying to win a championship.
I'm glad you said it, Perk. LeBron already unfollowed you. I'm glad you said it. He is putting the pressure on Rob Pelinka.
Because shooting slump. Yeah, you got that right, buddy.
It means something. But if the gesture is like, it's got to be one of these three players or else I'm signing the max, that's like a pretty tight needle for the front office to thread. If it has to literally be Klay Thompson or...
that's not that tight.
But it's... okay.
It's not that tight. It's like...
If you get a list of three guys, it's not that tight?
I'm telling you, I'm willing to take less money
for you
to go get these dudes. I'm not giving less money for any old jack that's gonna come in here that might make us act like a little bit better.
I'm saying it's the pressures on the front office. I think that's intentional, and I do think it is indicative that the Lakers have moved on, or appear to be moving on at least, from this vision of trading all our picks and bringing in a big name like Trae Young or a big third star, and they're going to try to piecemeal this with a bunch of quality role players and a model that can sustain it. I think that's smart.
Remember the timeline. At the trade deadline, they said, we're not going to trade our draft picks, we're going to save it till the summer. Then J.J. Redick gets hired, and Rob Pelinka says, we're actually still not going to trade our draft picks. We can't do that.
And a guy that we love fell all the way to us with one of those picks.
Okay. Yep.
Then LeBron says, how about I take less money? Will you then maybe trade the draft picks? And now we're waiting. There's a communication going back and forth between the Lakers and LeBron here. Also, they drafted Bronny, which shouldn't be left out. But what LeBron is looking for here is immediate upgrades to the roster. That's what he's offering here. He's basically begging them, please, please, please upgrade the roster. Meanwhile, we've got J.J. Redick talking about modernizing the team.
Right.
We've got him talking about getting offensive rebounds, taking a lot of threes. They make a major investment today, not in a free agent, but in a player in Max Christie. They signed him to a 4-year, $32 million deal today.
Yep.
Because they developed him. JJ's going to want to play him. They didn't sign him for JJ not to play him. LeBron says, I'm going to take a pay cut, and they sign a developmental player. So, I'm not 100% sure that just because LeBron says he's going to take less money means that it's going to end up in LeBron taking less money. It shouldn't. I'm just saying, none of this should be taken for granted. All of this is, the Lakers are working, and I'm not sure what they're going to look like in 72 hours, but don't make us an assumption that just because he said something, that's going to result in something.
The Lakers are working, so is Bobby Marks. Let's bring him in here to be our Beyonce and tell us how the Lakers can upgrade Jay here. What's going on with the Lakers?
Well, I think that we've talked about that 178 number as far as fitting everything under there, and I've agreed with Brian the whole time. They've got to make a move as far as clear out some salary, either with D'Angelo Russell and certainly Gabe Vincent here, but if they don't and they stay put and Klay Thompson says, I want to be a Laker, this is what's going to have to happen. LeBron James' salary is going to have to go from $50 to $25 million. Okay, that's a $25 million pay cut. So that gets it to that 160.
Or maybe well into the night, simply because those two guys are holding the market hostages.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. That's kind of what this is feeling like. Again, teams are going to be a lot more hesitant to just throw money out there. You got to see what happens with Clay. You got to see what happens with PG. I think you're right, Espo. I think we may be looking at the complete opposite of last year. Last year was boom, 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 boom. Let's get it going. This year may be more of a slow roll. And
yo, shout out to my teammates because they are just tearing me right now.
This is a little weird. You know, do we punt on trying to do something this year long term? Do we take a small 1-year deal and get back into the market next year? All those conversations are being had, and it's intriguing as hell. But I got a feeling that this market, the effect of the CBA is clear as day right now with this new CBA and how the free agency market seems to be playing.
I'm playing awful.
I want to circle back to point guards. We started off talking about there, and Judas Zoinkinski in the chat says we need a point guard, not a combo guard at point guard. One of the names you mentioned was Campaign, who most view as more of a combo point guard. What is it in your mind that makes Cam a fit here? Because we know he's been turnover prone in the past, which was a big issue for the Suns. Why do you think he could be a fit in a reunion with the Suns team?
Well, it's interesting because first things first, you can call Cam whatever the hell you want to call him, but he played point guard for us. Like when Chris Paul was out and we didn't have Chris Paul in the playoffs and we were winning games.
They're not even locking me up either, bro.
Your point guard was Campaign. So you can call him whatever you want.
Oh
yes,
my God! Shout out to y'all. Y'all are hooping.
He plays point guard.
Y'all are hooping.
He's capable of playing point guard. The main thing with Cam,
y'all are hooping,
is the energy and the tempo. You want to play faster? You get a guy like Campaign on your team. You want to push the tempo? Campaign will do that.
Damn.
You need a bucket. He can do that. You want to get the crowd excited. He can do that. These are all things that tie into the whole pot. So, yeah, is he a traditional point guard? Is he Tyler Collect? Is he coming out here trying to set people up in pro defenses and try to get 8 dimes a game? No, that's never been Cam's game. But this idea that Campaign can't come in and play point guard. By the way, who the hell are you finding to do that? I'm just curious. Like, what point guard are you coming in that is coming in to actually be a floor general 10 minutes a game? Because he ain't starting.
Yeah, you know it, Chris. CP3. It's not happening.
Not happening.
So when you look at it as well, sorry, I got something going on here.
Yeah, you got a little echo there.
How about now?
There we go, baby. There we go.
A button on the mixer got hit. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to sound like a robot. But people say Chris Paul. We already addressed that. That's likely not happening. I think Hello makes a good point in the chat. So says Payne will force Book and KD to run when he's in. This pace of play was much slower than you would have liked to have seen it last year. So I find that an interesting point in terms of what a campaign could wind up bringing to the roster. Buddha the Schizo wants to know, can I call Cam a dinosaur? He said, there you kind of sound like you said it. I'm going to call him a megalodon, but we'll keep going on that. Amelia says, I love Campaign. Turbo! Yeah, yes. I like Campaign. Calvin wants to know, would Isaiah Thomas be coming back? Highly...
Oh, my goodness.
I just don't expect that to happen. I don't see that happening as well. And a lot of people asking why I auto-tuned myself. That was an accident. So, Leo says this team needs a dog. Jay Crowder, please.
Having one of those Jason Tatum games.
You might have just got 2 of them in the draft.
Much younger versions of him for sure. In Jalen Bridges and Ryan Dunn in different ways. You think Jalen actually has a shot at making this roster? I mean, I know that that's another name where you're looking at some of these guys that we talk about that might not be on the roster come opening day. I kind of wonder, could Jalen Bridges wind up surprising enough in Summer League, doing some things in camp that he could take one of those spots?
Absolutely. He's gonna have all the opportunity in the world. He's gonna go to Summer League. He's gonna have an opportunity camp. Got a great body. Like I said, he can create a shot. He can great catch and shoot guy. 41% from three. Good body. I don't think people are understanding what this influx of youth does for a team like the Suns. Like, we needed a lot of things last year, but what we needed was some young blood, some dogs. Like, I think a guy like Dunn and Bridges and Oso, they're going to come in and they're going to bring a different life to practice, a different life to the locker room, a different life to the game. But they're rookies. And I know the next thing is, well,
Drake,
rookies
you know, I
aren't
really
going to
have
do
to
anything.
take to it.
They're not going to be ready. They have too much development to do. This, that, and the third. And then you go look at a couple of years back when we were competing and destroying the NBA and winning 64 games. Who do we run into, Espo, in that first round? The Pelicans, right?
Pelicans, yeah.
You know how many? Yeah, you know how many rookies played on that team?
A hell of a lot.
Gave us everything we can handle. And if you go back and watch that team, yeah, there was a young Herb Jones who was a rookie, played damn well.
I think Nicola's hurt, bro.
Young Alvarado, who was a rookie, played damn well. I want to say Murphy, right? Trey Murphy was on that team, played damn well. And these are rookies, guys. These are rookies. So this idea that rookies can't come in and contribute and help long term or down the road in the regular season just blows my mind. So especially these type of rookies. You're talking about a high IQ guy in Oso, and you're talking about potentially one of the best, if not the best defender in this draft, and one of the best defenders in the draft in a long time. I spoke to someone last night who said it's been 20 years since he's seen a defender with this type of potential. So yeah, I mean, take that however you want, but I know one thing: defense travels. Guys know how to play defense. He's gonna get on the court.
Very true. Some news here from Stoner Kitchen says, breaking news, Suns have signed that Espinoza guy to a 2-year deal to run socials. I love that callback joke to the disgraced former owner in my time there. But some actual news. Yahoo Sports is reporting that Russell Westbrook may be on the move after opting in to his $4 million contract, that they're looking for a deal now that James Harden has officially come back. So some questions on, could you make a move for Russell Westbrook? I don't know. Forgive me, I don't know exactly where they stand in terms of their where they are in the apron, but the idea of Anas Little, who has a $6 million contract and a sweetener, maybe a second or two for a Russell Westbrook, could be a interesting way to fix at least one of those point guard slots.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not gonna never say no to Brody. I love Westbrook. I think his energy, his toughness, everything he brings to the table is something the Suns can use. So yeah, if Westbrook is one of these point guards that we add, I wouldn't be upset. But I'm with you, Espo. I don't know where they stand in the eight.
If they are all healthy, they are still a top 4 team, in my opinion.
No,
they never finish in the top 4. They're never healthy. That's why Pat Riley's upset.
Here's the thing. This is why I said in the middle of the season that if you're Pat Riley, you move on from Jimmy and consider trading them to a team that really has a legit chance of winning the title. Jimmy Butler is, 35 years old? The rest of the guys outside of him and Kevin Love, they're all under 30, right? Barely knocking at the door of their prime. I mean, what direction are you moving in?
Why are you asking me, bro?
They not getting no help from nobody else.
We know the Heat don't like to move backwards, though. Right. That's the thing. The Heat want to reload. So how does that work? I don't know.
And we know that Kevin Love is back, according to Tim Bontemps. He agreed to go back to the Miami Heat. Deals, they are still being made as free agency has officially opened here. But the biggest pieces have yet to come. So here on our NBA Today Free Agency Special, we're going to tell you where we think the biggest players will land. That's next.
At Dots, an ordinary pretzel just isn't enough, so they add savory seasoning and tempting buttery flavor.
Is that this has moved so slow, but I actually did expect at least one or two things to kind of give here early in free agency.
Yeah, I mean, and it's still early. I mean, we're 50 minutes into this, right? Is there a world where we get off this at 4 o'clock and at 4:02, boom, boom, boom? Like, that could happen, right? We don't know how this is going to play out. I think we got a little bit spoiled last year with the rapid fire of how it went. But, yeah, I mean, a little surprised, but you made a great point that I think we have to continue to pounce on. I think Paul George and Klay Thompson right now are kind of the guys that are hijacking the market. And until you see something definitive there, you're going to have a lot of these teams on the pause. And you're going to have a lot of these players
makes an appearance, at least is expected.
Kind of just sitting back saying, okay, where do these guys land? And once that's done, who's available, how much money I got. So, yeah, it may be. And these are two guys that are not like sure. Like, listen, there's questions about Paul George. There's a lot more questions about Klay Thompson. This isn't like we're talking about two guys that are clear-cut, like this is no-brainer, give them the max, get that done. There's some issues on both sides, particularly with injury. So that gives me a reason to think this could drag on. Like, it could be a minute before those guys get settled in.
Well, and they're both guys that at this point, I don't think necessarily want to chase the money without the ability to win, right?
Right.
Which shrinks that pool even smaller. And in some cases, they may be trying to fight for some of the same dollars.
This is crazy.
So, KCP, another guy that I think probably has to find his home before some of this will kind of loosen up and start to see some deals. Are we staying on till the Suns actually sign somebody? Is this like a marathon?
Is that what you want to do?
Champs 04 wants to hear your thoughts, Flex, on Patrick Williams signing a 5-year, $90 million deal to return to Chicago, and if you think that's a good deal.
I love Patrick Williams. I do. I was floored when I saw that. Floored, especially in the world we're in right now with this new CBA. That felt a little rich for me. And I love Patrick. I think Patrick's terrific. But, I looked at that deal and I was a little shocked. I'm a little confused with what the hell Chicago's actually doing. I don't know. Talk to me, Espo. Did you see the same thing? Because I love the kid, but the money doesn't make sense.
I don't understand what Chicago's doing in general. I mean, they're making this deal. They're trying to give away Zach LaVine for anything. There's no market. Like, I don't understand what Chicago's in basketball purgatory, right?
Yeah.
They're not good and they're not bad. They're fighting for the play-in constantly, and I don't understand why you want to live there, right? That just makes no sense to me, and I know some of it is simply if you can't find somebody to make a trade for a guy like Zach LaVine, well, you're on the hook for it, and that's your own doing for signing. But, yeah, it's interesting. Wally's saying that Shams is reporting on his show that Westbrook wants to be a Nugget. So, interesting.
I mean, I know he wants to win. That's for sure.
Nikola Jokic with another cutter.
Trying to mess around. I mean, we've seen this for quite some time. Russ wants a ring, man. So if he thinks Denver is that team, I mean, they just got rid of Reggie Jackson, didn't they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a spot there available. Would make a lot of sense. That's interesting. I'd be intrigued by that, Espo. But KCP is another domino you got to see fall. I mean, you're hearing rumblings that maybe Philly could be gearing up to get KCP and Paul George. That's interesting, but that also changes the dynamic out in Denver. So, I think until we see PG and Klay, man, this is gonna get a little stale.
T asks why I'm lying. Chicago's ass. Am I wrong? that team just feels like it's middling. It does not feel like it's bottom out kind of team with some of the talent it still has, but it's not a good team either. I don't. They're not a team
why can I hit shots? Why?
Additional moves that are in the tanking
Oh my
category.
God, this is crazy.
I don't think they're tanking at this moment. I think they're in no man's land.
You know who they are? They're the Brooklyn Nets last year.
Yeah.
That's who I think they are. Oh, we got Cam, we got MyCareer, we did this, we did that. We're gonna try to sit in the middle here, and then that happened. And then it's like, okay, let's go all in. Like what they did this year, what the Nets did this year was go all in. Okay, we're going to tank. We're done. We know we're not beating the Celtics. We know we're not a true contender. Let's get this out the way. I'm just waiting for the Bulls to get to that point. And again, $18 million a year for Pat Williams is not like absurd. I'm falling off my chair. I can't believe Pat Williams got $18 million. I love Pat. I think Pat's very good. And when you think about it, you know, now that a couple minutes to think about it, with this new CBA and where things are going.
I don't know if they even have a bat in their hands to swing at, but Perk just said something interesting. He said if Paul George went to Philly, all you got to worry about in the East is Boston and New York. Remember the Milwaukee Bucks? Remember them? Like, they were supposed to be pretty good. They got Damian Lillard. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Giannis missed the whole playoffs. They fired their coach halfway through the season. They lost in the first round because of injuries. Like, they're still here, and they're under an enormous amount of pressure to find some way. They don't have a lot of picks to trade. They don't have a lot of cap. They have no cap space. How are they going to keep up with the Joneses in the East? Is it really just another year of seasoning for Dame and Giannis under Doc Rivers? Is that really it? Like, it feels like they got to do something, and I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
How do you feel about signing minimum players?
Great. Good luck.
That's what they're heading towards.
So are you with Zach here that the team that cannot afford to miss out on whoever their target is the Milwaukee Bucks?
I think the Denver Nuggets are a team we should be paying more attention to. Denver is probably going to lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You don't listen to my advice on that or my word on that. Their general manager Calvin Booth pretty much said as much. Jamal Murray has not extended his contract. He is playing with the Canadian national team, contract not extended. No one's talking about that. Why? Why isn't he extended his contract? Aaron Gordon is due a contract extension this summer. Is he going to sign an extension? Like, are they done spending on this roster? They salary dumped Reggie Jackson a couple days ago. Not that Reggie Jackson is a gigantic loss, but they could have traded him for another player, not just salary dumped him. So how do the Nuggets keep up with the Joneses? How do they replace a guy in their roster who was a big part of their championship team after they lost a guy last year? So I think Denver is in a tough spot. If you can be in a tough spot with Nikola Jokic, Denver is kind of in a bit of a tough spot right now.
Which team can't afford to miss out on this? Every team but the Boston Celtics. Every team but the Boston Celtics. Every team not named the Boston Celtics can't miss out on whoever they're trying to get in free agency. Hopefully with their draft picks and what they knocked down. We can sit here and focus on one team, two teams, if this team. Every year we sit up here and say it's championship or bust for 7 teams. That's what we say. That's just not the reality of the situation. So for me, if you're not the champion, then every single team around you's got to get better to try and become the champion. I didn't know we could pick the whole league. You're welcome. You didn't ask.
Like Charlotte they can't miss
it. Yeah, they need to get better. They do. Because we joke about that stuff, but at the same point in time, how did they start with Clay, and how did they start with Steph, and how did they start with Draymond and Golden State? They built it through the draft. So when we say Charlotte can't mess up on draft pick, if you're going to build something great like other franchises have, Boston Celtics, you got to do it with the draft. You can't mess up.
But we're talking about free agents.
Bring us home with free agents.
Talk about this off-season.
Hold on, but when we're talking, when this type of question comes up, we're talking about guys teams that have a real chance at winning the title. Richard.
And so who is yours?
I'm going with Zach with the Bucks. I feel like, look, you got Damian Lillard. You traded away Drew Holiday. He went and got a championship with Boston in your conference. Giannis with the complaint. What are they going to do with Chris Middleton? Bruce Brown made my big list for a reason.
Right. Brian, before we go, we have about 30 seconds left in the show. Paul George, can we expect, should our phones be on high alert tonight?
If he actually goes through with the meetings with all the teams tomorrow, if he hears what he likes from the 76ers tonight, he could commit to him tonight, and then we'd see a lot of stuff happen.
What are you doing, Zoom meetings?
That's what the pandemic is running. That's going to do it for us here on our NBA Today Free Agency Special. We'll see you for 90 minutes at 8:30 Eastern tomorrow night, and that is when we expect free agency to really heat up.
Let's go. We got some free agency. Nice deal.
This episode of The Ultimate Fighter is presented by...
To have PG and Klay Thompson to sign is going to be really what unlocks the rest of free agency. Sham's still reporting that Russell Westbrook and the Clippers are trying to find a trade, but that is all we have on that front. So we will end it here for our beginning of free agency frenzy. Not as exciting as last year at this time, where by now we had 4 Suns signings and a plethora of other signings around the NBA, but we will be back if anything breaks. Flex, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's good that it's not like last year, because we saw how last year played out. So take your time, Suns. Make the right decisions. Take your time. We'll patiently sit back and wait, and when something pops off, you got the squad here. We'll fill y'all in.
You can follow Flex at Flex from Jersey. He'll be talking about everything going on in NBA free agency when he's not here on the mic. Follow at Gerald Bourget for updates and reporting as well. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. You can follow me at Espo. And remember, it's always fun when you accidentally auto-tune yourself. Ahoy, boy.
Fun fact. The person with McDonald's is always the most popular kid in school. And if they save money with the app, they're also the smartest.
That what was it, a halftime broadcast with Joel Embiid during the finals where he made eyes at Paul George, and sometimes that's nothing. This time it feels like it was something. There's been so much smoke, right, for so long that the Sixers would have this mountain of cap space. George fits into it. Nobody else really makes sense to spend that much on. So it just feels like Philly to me. But I mean, the Orlando fit is it's just so intriguing, right? Just it's a younger team. Him fitting right there next to Jalen Suggs in that backcourt, just a supersized group there that could really defend a potential rising power in the East. But it does feel like Philly to me.
I agree with Philly. Orlando would be so much fun, though. But we have a report from Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Source, Tobias Harris receiving free agency interest from the Pistons, Jazz, Spurs, and Mavericks. Notably absent from that is his incumbent team, the Sixers, who that did not end well. He's basically gone. Do any of those teams stand out? The Pistons have been linked to Tobias Harris for months. Do any of these teams, though, stand out as good fits, or even one that maybe the fit's not great, but, they would just pay him?
I mean, it's not so much fit for me with Tobias Harris. It's just what's the number? It's a price question, right? He's one of the guys that maybe he's the guy who's kind of the poster boy in the league for. You're not evaluated necessarily for what you can do. It's you're evaluated for what you can do relative to what you're being paid. And he was, everybody knows that he was overpaid on that last contract. So you could talk me into the Jazz. You could talk me into just about anybody if you're talking, well, maybe that's what we should get to. Is this mid-level money we're thinking? Is it less than that? It's hard to imagine he gets up towards, the $20 million a year figure. But, look at the numbers, 17-6, shot 48% from the field. It's just he's been consistent over the years. 7 years and averaging over 17 points a game. Like, this guy's a rotation player at minimum, a decent starter at worst. Kind of a universal fit if you don't need him to be like your second or third best player, right?
Yeah, the concept of Tobias Harris still has a ton of value, and Caitlin Cooper of Basketball She Wrote calls it a soul tax, where a situation gets so toxic, you just play so poorly. I wonder if that's what happened in Philly. But all these teams that are mentioned, with the exception of Dallas, those are cap space teams. And so it makes me wonder, is he looking for the 1 or 2 year balloon offer? And when you're considering fit, I'm going to be honest, apologies to any Detroit Pistons fans watching, I want anyone who's looking to do well to stay out of Detroit right now. So can we get Tobias to the Spurs or even Dallas? Those are 2 teams that I think that could be good if they get someone else who in theory could break down defenses and force them into rotation aside from their top level options that are there. And so I love those 2 fits. I don't know that I understand Utah's interest if you have Larry Markkinen, John Collins is still there. You have Taylor Hendricks that you got to clear some minutes for. So I just don't. The Utah interest puzzles me. Unless is this a precursor to Danny Ainge kind of shaking up the roster?
No, I'm glad you mentioned the name. To me, there I can't remember now because it's been kind of a whirlwind of a day. But there was already somebody else of consequence who was linked to Utah. It was kind of like the Tobias thing where you're like, what? Why? And to me, it just feels like this is Danny Ainge doing the Danny Ainge thing where it's like, we were in on this guy. Well, we just, you just got to be in on everything. So you're going to hear the Jazz come up maybe, more often than maybe I'm not going to project. I keep hearing the Jazz come up more often than I think they should, related to targets that I would be surprised if they